You're live.
Okay, today is Tuesday, April 8th. This is Senate Committee on Institutions. And today we will be having a conversation with Laura Treichman, the State Historic Preservation Officer. We're going to hear from the Vermont Historical Society. And we'll be going through H50, which is an act relating to identify underutilized state buildings and lands. And then we'll return to the Capitol bill and have a walkthrough for Legislative Council. So it's Monday, or not Monday, it's our Monday, it's Tuesday, which is our first day of the week. I'm Wendy Harrison, chair of this committee.
Senator Ross Ingalls, Essex District.
Senator Joe Major, Windsor District.
Rob Plunkett, Bennington District.
Sam Douglas, Orleans District.
Great, thank you. And
We didn't do that today.
Ms. Treichman, you are the first one up. And thank you for changing your schedule to be with us. We appreciate that very much.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I'm sorry I'm not there in person. I just had surgery and my commissioner won't let me leave the house.
That is a reasonable constraint. Trying to keep our medical costs down. What we wanted to talk to you about, well, first of all, if you want to give us an update on your budget, then there's a couple of, at least one project that I don't believe is in the queue in your system, but we'd like to talk about. So why don't we start with your budget overall, which I know we went through a few weeks ago.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Just to give you an update, for the record, my name is Laura Treichman. I'm the State Historic Preservation Officer. I have been honored with this position for 12 and a half years. The many things under our purview that are included in the Capitol bill is the underwater preserves, which are noted in there at a recommended $46,000. We now have 11 preserves that are open to the public year-round. Not year-round, seasonally from May to October. These sites are marked so you can dive them in the winter months when actually the lake is much clearer but significantly colder. The preserves were established in 1982, and last year we had 300 registered divers and we clocked in over 600 dive. Sorry.
It's wonderful. So those are all in Lake Champlain, and are those things like shipwrecks or plane wrecks, those kinds of things?
They are all in Lake Champlain. They are all shipwrecks. The vast majority of them are canal boats. There's some lake schooners, there's tugboats, there's horse ferries. Some of them have an association with the War of 1812. But for the most part, they're 19th century resources, many going down because of weather events. And we've been doing 3D modeling, videos, all sorts of documentation so that you can see them without diving.
That is terrific. So I have just one other question, probably. We have in my district, the petroglyphs are
Yes.
there at two sites, and in one site they are underwater. Would that someday be able to qualify for an underwater site?
The underwater preserves is defined as the water in Lake Champlain. But I would say there would be a concern of the speed of the water coming from those petroglyphs. It might not be safe to dive. But that said, there might be other ways to make it available for people to view them.
Okay.
Cameras and such, which is other things that we're looking at as well.
And would Lake Memphremagog Magog be a potential? I mean, can other bodies of water, if we change the definition, be included?
Yes.
Great. Okay, that's something for the future. Any other questions? Okay, thank you. So the next one is the roadside historic markers.
The governor did not recommend funding for the roadside historic site markers in this budget, but recommended a pause. I will say there's a great deal of interest in the roadside markers. Nearly every weekend in the summer is dedicated events for the unveiling of markers. In 2024, we processed 23 applications, and we are easily up to 330 roadside markers in Vermont and 1 in Virginia. So they are quite popular. They cost about $3,000 a piece. That includes the pole, and oftentimes installation. We have wonderful partnerships with VTrans, who installs those along the state right-of-ways, and then we work with town garages to install them on other property, or sometimes we actually have to do it ourselves. I have about 28 applications sitting on my desk right now. 12 of those are related to the 250th anniversary. We have about, I think we're at 10 at the foundry right now. And I have 8 in storage that just arrived, and we're going to be running those about the state for installation. So it's a very popular program, traditionally funded at $25,000 a year.
Okay, do you have an idea of what the governor wanted to do with that 25 instead of the markers?
I do not.
Okay, we can talk to them about it. Okay. Okay, and so the House put it back in, put the 25 back in.
Yes, I think they were concerned that we had orders already at the foundry we needed to pay for,
Okay,
and the number of applications we continue to get.
okay. Anybody have any questions about that? Go ahead, Sam.
About how heavy are the markers? Just some curious.
I'm sorry? What is it?
About how heavy are the markers?
What do they weigh?
Like
Their
Oh,
weight.
they're solid cast iron, so
You can use pounds, not kilograms.
yeah.
yeah, no, they're about 175 pounds, not including the pole. And then they come in some significant packaging that can get the weight up to about 300 pounds. We've used the same foundry since 1947, and most states use it. It's located in Ohio. So in addition to the new markers, we also are sending a number of them back each year for repair, repainting. Sometimes something isn't politically appropriate. We want to change some of the language. So we're redoing markers as well. So it's not just new applications.
Thank you. Did you have I noticed I had seen some that looked redone. So, so those aren't a new expense. Or hopefully that's not as expensive as a new marker to take it and update it.
Correct. If it's repainting and just a refurbish, it's about $800. If we have to replace some words or a word or a letter, it can be about $1,000, but most of the time we have to start over because the caps that hold them onto the poles in time will start cracking. And once that goes, we have to replace the whole marker.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. They're really great. I mean, I assume everybody knows what they look like and has them in your area. Okay, so let's so the other 2 things we have are the Bennington Battle Monument and major maintenance. So I think we'll have separate testimony on the Bennington Battle Monument, but is there something, should we invite you for that testimony, or would you like to talk to us now? Or
I think the Bennington Battle Monument testimony could be a little more in depth, and it's not related to the Capitol bill because there's no ask in the Capitol bill specific to the monument other than just our regular major maintenance.
Oh,
So
there is money
that's
now.
something we
I
can
mean,
come
it's
back.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
There is funding now, but it's reallocations, if that's what you mean by
Yes.
not in the budget.
Oh, yes, that is funding that was originally allocated to BGS on our behalf to install the safety fencing that went around the monument. There are additional funds remaining with that. And we asked that those funds be moved directly to ACCD so that we could take care of the contracts and the money ourselves. In February, severe winds damaged part of the walkway that's covered, unfortunately. And so we need to get that fixed. And then we are going to be using the rest of that funding to explore and get ready for the restoration planning and design.
Okay. That's enough for me right now, but does anybody want? Because we're going to get testimony on the overall plan at some point. And then I probably misspoke, because if you want to, if you would like to comment on what the House did regarding the Bennington High School, the Berry housing and the Brattleboro housing, where the House.
I have not been involved in that at all. I cannot speak to that. Commissioner Farrell can come and comment on that for you.
Okay, great. Just want to give you the opportunity. And so then now let's hear from you about major maintenance.
Sure. I have some slides if that would work to help.
Sure, that's a good beginning.
Conversation. Share.
Yes, you might need. Sharing.
Oh, that's not the one I wanted to bring up. Sorry. Okay, is that up and sharing?
Chimney Point.
Excellent. So the recommended funding for the fiscal year 26 is $550,000. The same for the next one in 27. So the state historic sites were established in 1947. And as you can see from this list, we have a range in date of these historic sites and their significance. Overall, we have 24 historic sites that collectively include 48 buildings, 7 monuments, a Native American site, 7 bridges, and just a little under 1,000 acres of land. We have been assessing these over the years to make sure they fit our scope and mission. We have deaccessioned buildings along the way that are better served by the local historical societies, and we continue to work with them.
Sorry, what did you call those other things? Accession, it sounded like?
Deaccession.
Oh, deaccession. So does that mean no longer state historic or something?
No longer owned by the state. Yes.
Okay.
And we always place easements on those resources, so we're forever a partner.
Okay.
Something significant about the major maintenance funding, you can see from this chart, it's been rather low. But for years 1999 through 2001, there were always additional line items. So major maintenance was the basic operations funding, which is why it was so low. And then in addition to that, there would be line items specific to a project that would range anywhere from $50,000 to nearly $600,000. That is not how we like to operate. It makes it very difficult to keep the money moving and flowing. And it got in the way of us trying to prioritize what is needed at each of these sites. We only have one director of preservation. We don't have any maintenance staff. So we have to contract everything out. And we do have great partners at BGS, but we always need specialists who are informed in the craftsmanship related to historic resources of a variety of different ages. So it's easier for us to have one large bucket of money rather than line items. It's also cleaner for everyone maintaining the capital bill. And our future estimate based on current and expected conditions, assessments, design plans, energy efficiency, material costs, et cetera, inflation, our anticipated need for these 2 fiscal years is 2.2 million. But also, while that's a lot of money to be moving through, again, we do not have the capacity to be moving that through. If we had that amount of money, we would have to hire additional staff through contract.
Excuse me.
Sure.
So, Laura, can you go
Yeah.
back to the last, Frank? So when you say that the 2.2 million is what the entire need is, and you have to contract it out, would that 2.2 go up because it is being contracted out?
No, that includes contracting it out.
Okay.
Yeah, so the
And
larger projects would include project managers, site inspectors that would be there all the time taking care of everything. The smaller ones, we would have the oversight ourselves.
Okay.
But what I heard was that you would need additional staff members, and I presume that that cost is not in the 2.24 million.
No, this is assuming that we stay with our current staffing levels.
But could you handle the projects at the 2.24 million? What I thought you said was that you don't have the staff to handle those projects.
We don't. So we would contract project managers who would work on our behalf as staff would.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
so the full additional cost or the full total cost is 2.24 million, including the additional staff.
Additional contracted staff, not
Got it.
state employee staff.
Got it. But that's accurate.
Right.
Okay. So you could do it if you had the money.
Yes. Yes. I never want to say no to money. The challenge we have in Vermont, in New England, in America is the lack of skilled workers, contractors. We've put some of these RFPs out 3-4 times with no nibbles whatsoever, and we keep trying to change up the projects to make them more exciting. What makes these historic sites so fantastic is their idyllic locations, but what makes them unappealing to contractors is their locations. So that is also a challenge in getting people to come and do the work.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Good for the next slide? Yeah.
Quickly through, I wanted to show you some of the projects that we had worked on and anticipate working on. The Chester Arthur site up in Fairfield is gaining a great deal of attention. Pre-COVID, we could barely break 100 visitors, and last year we had 614. There's a significant moisture problem in this building that we need to address, and from there we can start painting and addressing the security issues related to it being very remote. And also the exhibits and interpretation need to be replaced. They are about 30 years old. Kent's Corner in Calais, the barn must be stabilized. It was constructed in 1865 and is one of the more significant buildings, agricultural buildings in our collection. We're even looking to adaptively use that as exhibit space to teach people about the construction of agricultural buildings. The tavern itself is used for art exhibits, brought about 6,000 people through the 2 different art collections that were shown there this year. But it does need plaster repairs. And then there's also the Kent Family Exhibit Room. We did just receive funding through a last will and testament of a Kent family member. So we're going to be doing upgrades to that exhibit to tell the story of the family that built and owned the property. Chimney Point had close to 2,000 visitors last year and a little under $10,000. This is a very significant site right at the base of the Lake Champlain Bridge. Something that was plaguing us repeatedly and we were not paying significant attention to is this small little building here on the right. That is a 3-hole privy that kept blowing over in the wind every winter. So we had to rebuild the foundation to be able to tell the story that there was no indoor plumbing. There are no bathrooms in Chimney Point. So to save that, we had to redo the foundation, jack it up. And as you can see, it also got a new roof that'll help weigh it down. And it survived this winter in place. But it goes from the little things like that to the painting of Chimney Point cost us well over $100,000 a couple years ago because of the intricacy of the porch, the buildings that you don't see in the picture that are added onto it. It does have restrooms that we added to it. So the privy is just a museum piece, not operational.
That's probably a good idea.
Yeah. The only Revolutionary War battle fought on Vermont soil took place in Hubbardton. Visitation here, again, because of the semi-quincentennial coming up, is increasing greatly. We started acquiring the battlefield lands in the 1930s and operated them immediately as a state historic site. It was added to the National Register of Historic Places in 1971 for its national significance. The visitor center is not a historic building, but is regularly plagued by water infiltration as well. So this past year, we replaced all of the structural supports on the entryway. Previous to that, we had replaced all of the siding on this same side of the building. Incredible winds happen in Hubbardton Battlefield. So because of its location, and we're having to address that with the roof, where parts of the roof come off every year. So we're looking at a longer term plan rather than continuous fixing and repair. And that is the mission across the board, I would say, with all of our historic sites. Also at Hubbardton Battlefield is the oldest monument dedicated to the American Revolution. We need to do stone conservation, and we're partnering with BGS on that to clean the stone. And then the wrought iron fencing has been settling and has had wind damage, so we need to repair that as well. Calvin Coolidge Boyhood Home. We've gotten a new director 3 years ago, and she has really changed up the interpretation of the site, and visitation has gone up tremendously. At the homestead, which is what you see the picture here, this is where he was, President Coolidge was sworn into office at 2:00 in the morning. So it's a very significant location. We need structural repairs, the foundation is failing, and there really is no proper ADA access to it. So that's also something we've been working with architects on. The summer White House needs roof replacement, the chimney stabilization and framing repairs at the birthplace where he was born that are at the back of the Silly Store, which was operated by his father. So there's a lot of design work. And as I said, we've put out bids repeatedly and get challenges to getting that work done. But the estimated costs for this year are about $700,000.
Well,
That's the cost of the renovations or the repairs?
Yes.
Okay.
And just at the birthplace alone, which is the foundation and the structural stabilization, we're looking at $300,000. Then to get the egress, the accessibility, and complete all the structural, we're looking at close to $400,000. The second floor is not occupied. It has no weatherization, energy efficiency to it. We've been slowly restoring all of the windows and the shutters on the building. Those on the front have been completed already, and now we're working on them in the back. And we've been doing those in-house because there really are only about 7 good window restoring firms in Vermont. And we have the expertise to do that ourselves. This is the Silly Store with the birthplace on the back of it. We've redone the steps, we've redone the roofing. And one reason for the roofing is the second floor of the building is the summer White House, where the president had his offices when he was visiting Plymouth during his term. And you can see the water infiltration coming right through, right at the chimney. And because of the semi-quincentennial, we wanted to put in a whole new exhibit, the panels, you can see those on the wall, talking about the building's use and its association with the president and how significant this space is. So we actually got up there because we could not get any contractors. We did all of the work ourselves with seasonal maintenance techs. That's basically part-time help to get it all ready, painted, scraped, painted. The only part we were not able to do, you see right here, is around the chimney because that needs to be fixed at the roof level first.
Thank you for doing that.
Yeah, so here's some before and after pictures. And we actually had the work ongoing safely while people were there, and we were restoring the windows as well so that we could explain to them what we were doing, how we were doing it. And it really made quite a difference in the space.
That's great. And then they can see how it works.
Yeah, exactly. And also some of the window restoration we've also been doing at that site. The Justin Morrill Homestead, Old Constitution House, and Theron Boyd were all impacted by the flooding in July 2023. Justin Morrill probably the worst of the 3. All of them got impacts in their foundation level that didn't just get wet, but then when the ground froze, it was still so moist that the frozen ground pushed and destroyed parts of the foundation. I can show you some of the pictures that we were dealing with, where you can see in the Theron Boyd basement, the bricks just tumbling down, big cracks in the foundation. The same with the Morrill basement. At the education center, we had up to 18,000 gallons of water and we could not figure out why it kept coming in. Because there are no openings, there's no windows, there's no sump pump, there's nothing. But the drains around the building to prevent it from flooding were so clogged because of the intense water coming through that the ground was so wet. Every time we pumped the basement, it just kept filling back up with water. So we were finally able to do some digging around the site, correct that problem, and then it drained within about 10 minutes. And now we're installing a sump pump. We're working with FEMA on all 3 of these properties. At Old Constitution House, which I can go into a little more detail later, you can see the water line on the porch, the dirt. The water came right up the porch. This is in a flood zone, and we're working with the Vermont flood managers. Their recommendation is that we elevate the building. We're trying not to go that route. It's been moved twice in its history. So we're trying to work with them to figure out the best result of what we need to do. But in the meantime, we know we cannot put the mechanical systems back in the basement. We have to move those to the first or second floors. And thankfully, there's space in the building that is not for museum interpretation. So we do have places where we can put the mechanical systems. But the regular flooding at all of these sites is something that we've had to address and work with FEMA and public assistance.
Yeah.
Laura,
One second.
can you go back to Old Constitution House, please? So, and just give me how much money is needed to get that ready for the anniversary?
So our plan was, and we've gotten the funding for this. We have a semi-quincentennial grant that is to address the, I'm trying to pull up my notes as I'm speaking, sorry.
No, don't worry.
A semi-quincentennial grant that is over $400,000 that is to address all of the mechanical systems. The building closed in 2020 due to COVID.
Yeah,
And as you know, mold mildew moved in and started taking over the mechanical systems. You can't stay in the house very long. So we got a semi-quincentennial grant for that. And then from there, we will be addressing the National Register nomination, repairing all the windows. So that's $460,000, I think, with a matching grant of 53. Then
Okay.
we have the FEMA money to relocate the mechanical systems to the first or second floor, and that's an additional 63,000 that we have.
are we sure that we're getting that FEMA money?
I have that in my
Oh,
pocket.
you have it.
Yes,
So you took it away before they said.
they said yes. They asked Vermont if they wanted their
Good.
public assistance money, and Vermont said yes.
Good.
Yes.
Okay.
And then we're working on landscaping because of the flooding and because of the age of a lot of the trees. We have to put about $20,000 into the landscaping. Also, the walkways are not ADA. And again, flooding has made them very wonky and unsafe. And we're also doing dendrochronology. We've just contracted for $15,000 to do dendrochronology, which will.
Okay, so you just said dendrochronology and I just saw blank faces, including my own.
Yep.
Who's
No,
that?
I was going to explain. Dendrochronology is the coring of wood to document the age of it. So they take a core of the beams and they count the rings and they do all the testing, and they can tell you what year that tree was felled. They can tell you how old the tree's making up the building date from. So because the building has been moved twice, reused in many, many different ways, and then when it was moved to its current location in 1914, it had a good deal of colonial revitalization because that was the fashion. So they dressed the building up in a way it didn't look before, like adding the porches. So we want to know exactly how old the building is, because all at this point we've been able to say is it's circa 1777. But we don't know how much of the building dates from that period and actually how old it really is. So back to your question of what needs to be done and how much that would be. At this point, beyond those 4 things I mentioned, I have no idea, because we need to address the flooding and the mechanical systems. It will be museum quality mechanical systems throughout the building to protect the collection and to make it a wonderful environment for visitors. So I don't know beyond that, because we need to do some repairs to the roof, the chimney. We will have to address the porch for flooding. So I don't know. But our plan
Do we
moving,
have that, do we have the funds for that or not?
everything I just mentioned, I have the money for.
Okay,
Yes.
So let's talk, so 400,000 you have for the mechanicals. Right, and then you have 63. Actually, I have
Yes.
63 for the mechanicals. 400,000 is the flooding.
It's 463 from the federal government
Okay,
that
And
I
then-
also have in our bank account. I can see that money.
Huh.
We have to match that with $53,000.
okay, do you have this?
Then I have the FEMA money that'll be put towards the mechanicals as well, and that's $67,000. And I have that.
okay.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, just one more time, so, or if you wanna just send us a list, please, that would be helpful.
Absolutely. Yes,
And so the 53 that we need to match, we would be also spending 53, we'd be spending that 53, that doesn't get absorbed into the other.
the 463 from the semi-quincentennial grant needs to be matched. And our match is only $53,000.
Yeah.
It's not a 1-to-1 match.
Right.
Gotcha.
And is that budgeted already, the 53?
Yes,
Okay,
Okay,
yes. That actually came out of last year's capital bill.
okay, good.
Yes. So everything I've mentioned, I already have the money for, and it's part of the existing capital bill funding from the previous fiscal year.
Great.
okay. And we're just not sure what else we need to do. Is that accurate?
Yes, once we're done with those projects, we will need to do replastering, repainting, and we need to address the collections themselves. There's items that don't belong in the house that should be deaccessioned. That takes about 3 years, but we can move them out as need be to storage. But they're covered with mold and mildew, and we have to address that for the conservation of those items, and we need to do it in a way that is safe for our staff.
Okay, so when will you start on that project? Or maybe you already have started
We
on it.
have already started on that project, yes. And our anticipation is a soft opening for the season of 2027, so that we can get in there and celebrate the 250th on July 8th, 2027.
All right,
So, just so we're planning a soft opening on July 8th of 2027.
It'll open in May, but that
Gotcha.
July 8th is the anniversary
Yeah,
of the Constitution being executed there. So we will have events at the site around that. Yes.
Well, that is really good news.
yeah. We thought that we would have to put more money towards it.
I will always take more money because I can use it. I would rather it not be specific to any one site because that makes it harder for me to prioritize, but it has always been our anticipation to have the site open, maybe not every day of the season or every weekend, but we anticipate having events related to the 250th at this site in 2027.
I think this is more that we need to communicate that to the people of Windsor, as well as everybody, because I was accosted at a Windsor town hall about it. So, but that's great news. I agree. That's absolutely great news. I was gonna take some stuff from Bennington, you know.
No, you weren't.
But thank you, Laura. I appreciate that. That actually is very good.
Yeah. Terrific.
No, there's $550,000.
Yeah, well, we've been aware that its closing is not good, and it really tells a story related to the 250th, to the founding of Vermont. It's an important site, and we're gonna have it open.
That is really good to hear.
Yes. Yeah.
And it won't be done, right? The plaster won't be fixed, maybe the painting might not be done, but again, we'll be able to tell the story of restoration. We'll be able to tell the story of how old the building really is.
That's perfect. That's in some ways that's better.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. And a similar situation is happening over at the Justin Morrill Homestead in Stratford. We have a Save America's Treasures grant that is $226,000. We have to match that at $279,000. We know the final structural repairs in addition are $300,000. So we do have that money. We have all that $800,000 in our pockets right now. This site is going to be closed for this season while this project takes place. We discover new things about this building all the time. And we're reconstructing where we have to. We're preserving as much as we can. You can see the moisture here is really affecting even the paint. So instead of just regularly repainting, scraping and repainting, we're addressing the drainage. The senator, in his infinite wisdom, created an ice pond way up the hill at the back of the property. And the ice pond was great for harvesting the ice during the winters and then bringing water down through underground channels that fed all the gardens, the kitchen garden, and brought water to the house pumps. However, that water and coming down the hill is forever being held by the ground and the building itself, so that you can see the marks where the wall, this is the second floor, the wall is just absorbing water all the way up, and the plaster is just soaking wet, and then it freezes in the winter and falls apart. And traditionally, BGS was assisting us, and we would just contract someone to go in and make the repair of the plaster, not fixing the problem. So we've just completed a 2-year engineering study, and we know what the problems are. And now we're going to start this summer to fix the drainage problems. It's going to require some changes to the landscaping, fixes with the foundation. We also have over $100,000 from FEMA for this property.
That's terrific.
And again, next year it'll be a soft opening, maybe not open every day. won't be completely fixed, but this way we can bring people through to show them how things are constructed and what it looks like.
Let them see it before they buy an old house.
They're a challenge. This
Yeah.
is actually one of the this is the oldest one we have. It's from the late 18th century, the Theron Boyd House. It is not an open site at the moment for the public. We do special events here periodically, but it's been hit a lot by flooding, so we've stopped doing that. In fact, here's the basement. Here's the foundation wall, and that's not a trick of the camera. The wall is actually bowed out because of the pressure from flooding and the freezing ground. So the funding that we have from FEMA will help us shore this up, reconstruct it back the way it was. And our real dream is to have the Theron Boyd House, because it is virtually untouched. There's no running water, there's no electricity, there's no anything in this property. The last owner lived here from his birth in 1901 to 1983. He used to capture water from the roof and have it come down, and that way he could wash his dishes. But otherwise, there are no amenities in this house. And it's got original paint colors, wallpapers from the Georgian and federal periods. So we want to use it as a restoration study site. We can teach people how to restore buildings from this period, but also study how they were constructed, how they can be preserved.
That is wonderful.
So we're really very excited about that. And then Old Constitution House, as I said, we've got the plans to open that up again in 2027. The windows are slated to come out this summer in sequence for restoration. And Eureka Schoolhouse, didn't suffer a fire. This is what it looks like. It has also been moved a number of times. This is down in Springfield. The windows are out because they're being restored, so those will be put back in the next month or so. We are working on an agreement document with the Springfield Chamber of Commerce, so they will use this as a welcome center, as well as interpret it as one of the oldest schoolhouses in the state.
Great.
And Bennington Monument, we can come back and talk about at a much later date, but we've spent close to, but not $1 million, in studying it in the past couple of years. So we know exactly what's wrong, and we know the causes of what's wrong. It is the most visited site that we have in our collection. And we're also going to be doing archaeology this summer of all of Monument Circle, which prior to the construction of the monument had buildings and a road going through it. Monument Avenue continued right through it. So we want to make sure we document that all correctly as to what still exists. But also, there was no battle that took place here. It's a commemorative site. And what makes that important is this is the site of the storehouse where they had the munitions, they had the food, blankets, tents, all sorts of things stored here. And the British were coming to capture that, and the colonial troops stopped them. So it was a fight over the storehouse in Bennington that resulted in the Battle of Bennington. And the monument was conceived 100 years after that, and constructed in the 1890s. And we've owned it since the 50s. It used to be open year round, which is our goal again, but you can see the stone is absorbing water. It right now holds a little over 66,000 gallons of water. That's 3.5 swimming pools of moisture in the stone. We also monitored all of the existing cracks, and we have a team that rappels off the building every year. They will be doing it this year, the week of May 13th, to monitor the cracks and also take off any loose materials. The materials that are falling off the building now are 99% related to incorrect, incomplete restoration projects that took place in part. So here you can see the team rappelling off of it. You can also see the different colors in the stone. That's because of the water that it's holding. And they videotape everything, and we've got monitors in the building that we're tracking every month and quarterly to see how it reacts to all the different seasons and to seismic activity. We even went to the extent where we had to bore holes into it to figure out what it was constructed of. There are no hollow cavities in the construction of this monument. It's solid. So it's great that it is solid because that makes it structurally sound. It is safe and structurally sound, but we do have some maintenance things we need to take care of each year to ensure opening. And the project going forward that we're looking at right now is for that fencing money is to examine the design for the scaffolding, the design for the enclosure, because we have to dry the monument out. We can't repair anything until we dry it out. That's been the problem before. They go and they fix the mortar, they fill in the cracks, but the monument's still been wet. The stone is still wet and it won't accept any of those repairs. So we estimate it's probably going to take 3 years to dry out. And then we will be able to start doing our testing to see how to repair. And we want to make it watertight and sound, but obviously it won't be enclosed completely because it's like a chimney stack and it needs to breathe. Our hope then is also that we're able to open it year round, because it does have great views that go all the way around. We do have congressionally directed spending that is earmarked specifically for the monument, and this will address the archaeology of Monument Circle, the rappelling that's needed for the next 3 years to remove loose materials and check the exterior monitors. It will also address all of the interior monitors that we're looking at and the seismic studies because of the earthquake that took place last April in New Jersey and the other one this past February. So we're looking at the smaller chunks of the project for the monument going forward, not looking at the full estimated $40 million, because we need to get the design work done first, then the scaffolding, then the restoration. But it has to dry out first.
Question, she's like 40 minutes.
Yeah.
40.
Yeah.
Time, but it's good to know that there's congressional support for it. Because
Yes.
that was one of the initial fundings of the monument, and state of New York paid some at the beginning.
New York, Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Yes, we have great support and meet regularly with our congressional delegation, giving them updates and information and in search of funding. But we're not looking for any.
49 reasons why.
It is a lot, but it needs to be restored by craftsmen who are very specialized and understand the stone and the structure itself and how it works. It's a living, breathing resource. And also, we got the estimate from qualified national professionals who work on resources like this. So we feel pretty comfortable with the number, not changing, but it is a hefty number. And that's why we're looking at it at chunks so that we can manage it and we can do each of the steps as need be in the order that they have been prescribed.
And Laura, the folks that gave the estimate, are these the same folks that did something similar with the Washington Monument?
Some of the team, there's a team of 11 contractors that we have worked on the Washington Monument. They've worked on a number of similar monuments, high rises, high-rise buildings. They're now working on the Alamo, which is obviously a much shorter building, but is stone, and they're finding that the stones are reacting a lot of the same ways.
Mhm.
So what they're learning there, they're able to assist us with.
That's cool. So we got like a
But-
sister city thing.
Yeah, but it's safe. I mean, I guess that more than anything and can be open. Is that?
It
Well,
is it is definitely safe. We are opening May 16th. Vertical access will be there that week to get all the loose stones. The fencing around it that did blow away will be, the covered walkway to the entrance will be replaced for the opening. And the elevator maintenance that also needs to happen, as prescribed by the experts that we have, will take place before opening. And all of that is regularly monitored. I would not hesitate for a second to close it down if it were unsafe. It is structurally sound and safe.
And the person who is responsible for it is amazing. I went there about a month ago, I guess, and we
Yeah.
got it before it went up. She is so good and so
Yes.
responsible and knowledgeable and just exemplary.
Yes, Mary Lou Chakotay. She has worked for the state for 46 years.
Wow.
Yes, thank
She
you
is,
for.
she is a
Wow.
gem.
No, she's really good. Good.
And also
Um,
plan, like with the other sites, is to have the scaffolding designed so that the monument can be open as much as possible, so that you can see what's going on. You can go up in it while it's still being worked on.
Very cool.
yeah,
That's
thank
also
you.
a significant story.
That's what they did with the Washington Monument. They lit that up too.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't
And
think the folks
part
in
of- Part of the $40 million includes a whole new lighting system.
oh, good. So I was talking to Vince Aluzzi about the lighting system over the
Yeah.
weekend. I was like, wish I'd been here. But anyway.
All right, well, this
Thank
is
you, Laura.
really
Yeah.
helpful. Very helpful. Thank you. Any other questions?
I think we make a trip to Bennington on opening day.
Totally, May 16th.
Yeah.
And so now we're gonna hear from the Vermont Historical Society. See Jennifer Blair, you're here, and Steve Perkins, I think, is also here from the Historical Society. Hello,
Yes, we are.
and thank you for your patience, because we're a
Yeah.
little bit behind.
It's our pleasure.
Our
So,
clock is wrong, but I can't really blame it on the clock. So are you, okay, you're section 16. Now give us a second just to get our spreadsheets. And so we have one project, this VHS Spalding Building Water Infiltration. Is that what you want to talk to us about?
yes, that is correct. We did send over a packet of information. We just found out we were testifying about an hour and a half ago. So it's sent over. It'll be on your website. And I have also brought it up on my computer in case there's anything off it, but I don't have a lot of photographs prepared for today.
Yeah, and thank you for being able to do this on short notice too. We really appreciate it, but it made sense to have the historic things, and we had an opening, so
Oh, hey,
thank
yeah.
you for.
We'll take it. I'm not wearing a tie. I apologize. But you're broadcasting live from the beautiful Spalding, Old Spalding High School here in Barrie.
Cool. Okay,
Well,
so
I'll kick off formally. How does that sound?
yes, please. Okay.
So I'm Stephen Perkins. I'm the executive director of the Vermont Historical Society. I'm joined by Jennifer Blair, who is our director of finance and operations. And I'll just give a very quick overview, and then Jennifer can, dive into any questions you may have on the project in general, as she is overseeing this project. So about 2 years ago, the big floods here in Barrie of 23 and 24. took place, and we, sitting on a hillside on purpose, thought we were, doing great. But we had significant water infiltration into the building, kind of in three areas: roof, masonry, and most troubling and the worst place was through a compromised drainage system around this building. So because of our location where we are, we didn't qualify for any of the flood assistance, but it's certainly impacting this building. Vermont Historical Society moved into this building in the early 2000s, and it was purchased in 1995 from the city of Barre. And of course, we moved here. We moved our administrative offices, all collections, libraries, archives were moved to this location from Montpelier due to the flooding in Montpelier. Most notably the 1992 flood of downtown. And so this place was designed to be a secure and climate-controlled place for really kind of treasures of the state of Vermont. So this water infiltration is troubling. And so we hired assessment done. We brought in Breadloaf Corporation to do plans, and they brought in other specialists to do assessments and arrived at the proposal that we have. So it's a multi-part proposal. The first piece, what we're asking for now is $700,000. It's really kind of emergency funds. It's things that have to be done now, and we don't really have another way of acquiring or raising funds to do that. The remainder of the project is almost another $2 million. And we were working with federal partners on that, but we're not sure where that's going in the future. But today we'll just talk about the project that is in the existing capital bill draft that you have in front of you. So also just to note that we're a quasi-state agency or quasi-state entity. I don't know how exactly you call that. So we've received and used capital bill money in the past, and we do receive about half of our budget from the state of Vermont. Our staff are classified as if they were state employees, and my contract is approved by the governor. So there's that connection with the state. We also house the Department of Libraries here in this building, and what collections they still maintain, as well as the Office of the State Archaeologist and the collections, the state archaeological collections. Those do fall under Laura. I see she's still here, also housed in this building.
Great. Yeah, I hadn't realized from the title that it was the main building that's on that hill, and knowing that it was relocated there because of floods, and now you have damage from floods is that's got to be frustrating.
Very, very frustrating. So it's fixable, and especially the drainage system around the building, which was installed in the late 90s, has failed, much in the same way that Laura described with the drainage at the Morrill Homestead. It's full; they couldn't even scope it. And so it wasn't moving water away from the building, and it's just a really huge building, and it's a lot of expense to dig up all the drains all around this massive old high school.
Okay. So did you want to show us the presentation now, or where do you want to go from here? Or does Jennifer want to say something?
Yeah, we don't necessarily have a presentation. We have the document that we sent in for our budget request that has it's got a narrative section and then has some images of the damage of the building. And if you'd like to see that, I'm happy to share it with you.
Well, I guess do you all want to see pictures of damage?
I'm looking at it.
Oh, you're looking. Okay, I don't have it in front.
Okay.
I'm good, I don't see what.
Yeah, we can, you made it through the House, you're still in our budget. You're in the Senate so far, right now. So what we can do is, look at that, look at the specifics later in our process and contact you. Now that we know you're available, so quickly, we'll, unless you're going on vacation or something, but if you're gonna be around for the next 3 weeks, we can just contact you if we need something else.
We absolutely will
That
be.
sounds great.
The packet is very detailed, and the project is fairly straightforward as well.
And it makes a lot of sense. I mean, with what you have in that building, we must protect the building.
We certainly believe so. And as I extended to the House as well, I know that that your committee came out a couple of years ago to tour the building, but we'd be happy to have the committee come out when they have a chance to tour the building and not just see the damage, but it's an exquisite structure and really kind of houses a lot of treasures of the state of Vermont.
Yeah, I've only been there once, and I think it was more than 2 years ago, because I don't think last session's institutions did it, so it would be all of us. Senator Ingalls may have been there, but that would be great. We'll see what we can manage.
All right. Well,
All
thank you.
right, well, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have Scott here to take us through. Actually, you already did the,
Good afternoon,
Work.
committee. For the record, Scott Moore, Joint Fiscal. We went through the spreadsheet quickly, but I think we went through all the pages. So if you've got questions that I can try to answer off the spreadsheet, I'm happy to. I can try to look at some of the different bits and pieces of the bill that reflect the spreadsheet, or if we have general questions and whatnot, I'm happy to provide all the answers that I might have while we wait for John to get up and appropriations.
okay. And you are always happy to help us.
That's right.
I really appreciate it. I'm sure the other students do. And when do we expect John Gray? Is it 2:30? Because it almost is 2:30.
Right, that's what we're expecting, but it's appropriations and that
Right.
would take. how long?
Appropriations told me the date should be done by 3 with everything. So in theory, they would done with him sooner than that, but
Okay, well, let's see if we have questions for you. I don't think I have questions right now for you. And does anybody else?
No.
Okay, well, why don't we adjourn for now and then come back when John's available. And for those watching, that